There's a voice inside your head. It's been there as long as you can remember. And it never really goes quiet, does it? It's not just a voice. It's a constant, tireless narrator, a courtroom prosecutor, and a nervous director, all rolled into one. It's a relentless narrator, replaying conversations that are already over, examining them frame by frame for a misplaced word, a flicker of an eye, a shift in tone that you've now magnified into a catastrophe. And it's second-guessing choices you've already made, from the monumental to the mundane, creating elaborate, branching timelines of regret for paths not taken. Then, it's rehearsing arguments for battles that will likely never happen, crafting perfect, cutting retorts for imagined slights, leaving you tense and armed for a war that exists only within the confines of your skull. You call it overthinking, you call it anxiety. Sometimes, when you're feeling particularly clinical, you might call it rumination. But whatever the label, you've been told it's a problem to be fixed. A flaw in your personality, a sign that you are somehow broken. You've tried everything the world has offered. You've tried mindfulness, attempting to watch your thoughts pass by like clouds, only to find they're storm clouds, and you're caught in a hurricane. You've tried distractions, burying yourself in work or entertainment, only to find the moment the noise stops, the inner narrator starts up again, louder than before. You've tried to just think positive, a Herculean effort that feels like trying to paint a smiley face on the door of a burning building. And yet, the voice remains. Relentless, because you've been told a lie, a profound and damaging lie. But what if that voice isn't a flaw? What if it's a signal? A symptom of something much deeper? An echo from a story you didn't even know was being written inside of you. A story written in the silent, empty spaces of your childhood. In the things that were never said. The feelings that were never acknowledged. You think you're the thinker of these thoughts, the author of your own anxiety. But what if you're just the stage? What if the real directors are hidden deep in your own unconscious mind, running a play whose script was finalized long ago? This is the hidden truth of overthinking. It isn't about managing a bad habit. No, it's about finally meeting the parts of yourself you were forced to leave behind, long ago. It's about understanding that your mind isn't trying to torture you. It's trying to tell you something vital. It's using, well, the only language it was ever taught. And the great psychoanalyst, Carl Jung, he understood this perfectly. He didn't just diagnose the problem, he left us the map to its source. This isn't another guide to stop your thoughts, to silence the voice, or to fix what isn't broken. This is an invitation to finally understand them, to follow them down into the depths of your own being, to uncover the real reason why your mind never feels quiet. It's a journey to meet the wounded child and the banished shadow. And in that meeting, not in the silencing, is where true, lasting peace is found. You believe you're just a chronic worrier, a natural-born overthinker. But the looping, frantic thoughts in your head, they aren't really yours. They are a script, written in the invisible ink of your childhood experiences. And you're just the actor on the stage, endlessly, exhaustively, repeating the lines you were taught. This isn't about managing anxiety. No, it's about pulling back the curtain and meeting the puppet masters in your own unconscious mind. The ones who have been pulling the strings of your life all along. You know what it feels like. It's that psychological room made of mirrors, an internal funhouse, where every reflection is a new potential failure, a new past mistake, reanimated in high definition, a new reason to worry about a future that hasn't even happened. The world outside keeps moving on. People are laughing, living, deciding, but you're frozen, held captive by a deafening storm only you can hear. You are a ghost at the feast of life, present in body, but absent in spirit, trapped, in a cognitive maze. You spend hours, sometimes days, analyzing a simple text message, a period instead of an exclamation point. Well, that becomes a cold dismissal. A delayed reply is definitive proof of abandonment. You're convinced a misplaced comma means a catastrophic shift in the relationship. Meanwhile, other people just live. They make plans, they speak their minds, they just move through the world with an ease that feels completely alien to you. They talk about the weather, their weekend plans, the new show they're watching, and you feel a deep psychological drain. It feels like a performance of superficiality, one that starves you for something real, something deeper, and yet you feel completely incapable of bridging that gap. And so, inevitably, you conclude the problem must be you, that you're wired differently, that you're too sensitive, too intense, too much in your head. Society, with its relentless positivity and its productivity-obsessed culture, well, it reinforces this belief at every turn. The self-help world, well-intentioned as it may be, sells you 1,000 ways to fix your broken mind. It hands you labels that, well, they pathologize your depth. Words like anxiety disorder or rumination. Now, these are useful descriptors, sure, but they can easily become prisons. You start to think, I'm just an anxious person. And then, well, it becomes your identity, a life sentence you've accepted without question. But here is the quiet, revolutionary truth. You are not possessed by a flaw. You're possessed by what the psychoanalyst Carl Jung called a complex, a supercharged, autonomous cluster of feelings, memories, and beliefs that takes on a life of its own within your psyche. It acts like a mini-personality, hijacking your conscious mind whenever it's triggered. And at the center of this complex, running the whole frantic show, is the ego. Picture your ego not as arrogance, but as a terrified, hyper-vigilant guard on a castle wall. Its only job, the mission it's sworn itself to, is to protect you from ever being hurt in the way you were hurt before. When this guard sees a potential threat on the horizon, like a hint of rejection in a colleague's tone, a memory of public shame from your school days, or even the possibility of failure in a new project, it sounds the only alarm it knows, the deafening, clanging bell of obsessive thought. It truly, desperately believes that if it can just analyze every possible outcome, run through every contingency, and game out every conversation, it can prevent you from ever feeling that raw, original pain again. The noise feels like control. The analysis feels like a smart strategy for survival. It's a preemptive strike against suffering. This is the grand deception. Your ego isn't the villain. It's a tragically misguided hero. It's mistaken the noise of analysis for the safety of action. It builds intricate walls of logic, what-ifs, and repetition to shield you from the raw, unpredictable, and terrifying chaos of pure emotion. It keeps you mentally busy, running on a hamster wheel of thought, just to prevent you from ever having to stop, drop down, and truly feel the thing it's most afraid of. You are not broken. You've simply become a prisoner in a fortress that you yourself built to keep yourself safe. The problem is that fortress itself was built on a cracked and haunted foundation. And the ghosts of the past? They're not outside the walls. They're locked inside with you. So what is this cracked foundation? What original pain was so profound that it taught your mind that endless thinking was safer than vulnerable feeling? For so many deep, sensitive thinkers, the answer isn't a loud, dramatic, singular trauma. It's something far quieter, more insidious. It is the ghost of what was missing. Emotional neglect. This is the core of the wound. It isn't about what was done to you. It's about what was consistently, painfully absent. It's the experience of growing up in a home where, well, your inner world was a foreign country your caregivers never visited. Your physical needs may have been met. There was food on the table, a roof over your head, but your emotional needs were met with silence, dismissal, or even punishment. When you were sad, were you met with comfort, or were you told to be strong and stop crying? When you were angry, were you taught how to understand that anger, or were you punished for being difficult or disrespectful? When you were bursting with uncontainable joy, were you celebrated, or were you told to calm down and be quiet? This isn't about blaming our parents. No, they were often just passing down the only script they ever knew, handed to them by their own parents, in a long, silent lineage of emotional suppression. But for a child whose entire reality is shaped by their caregivers, the effect is profound and truly life-altering. You learn a devastating unspoken lesson that becomes the bedrock of your personality. It's this: my feelings are wrong, my needs are a burden, my sensitivity, it's a flaw, and my authentic inner world? Well, that's just not acceptable here. So what does a child do in this impossible situation? They cannot physically escape their home, so they perform a miraculous, yet tragic, act of psychological escape. They escape their heart. They retreat upward, out of that messy, unpredictable, unwelcomed realm of emotion, and into the one place that feels safe and controllable: their mind. This is the precise moment the script of overthinking gets written. The child learns to survive, not by feeling, expressing, and connecting, but by observing, analyzing, and predicting. They become a hyper-vigilant scanning machine, always looking for danger, for parental moods, for those subtle cues that signal approval or disapproval. Why? Because no one ever helped them regulate the natural chaos inside their own heart. They had to become their own parent, but, an immature, terrified parent who could only manage through intellect. Fast forward 20, 30, even 40 years, that child is now an adult, sitting at their desk, agonizing over a single sentence in an email to their boss. They're not just an adult overthinking. They're that same child, frozen in time, using the only survival strategy they ever learned. They're still trying to think their way to the safety they never felt. You overanalyze every social interaction because, well, you were never taught to trust your own emotional instincts and social intuition. You struggle with chronic indecision because you're profoundly disconnected from your gut feelings, which are truly the compass of desire and preference. You create worst-case scenarios in your head because your nervous system was, frankly, marinated in a low-grade fear that was never soothed by a caregiver. Your overthinking isn't a thinking problem at its core. It's a feeling problem. It's the sound of a mind that was forced to take over the job of a heart. A heart that was taught, for its own survival, to be silent. If childhood emotional neglect wrote the original script, there's another powerful, unseen force that acts it out from the shadows of your own mind. You see, Carl Jung believed that the most crucial and difficult work of a person's life was the encounter with the shadow. And meeting this hidden part of yourself, that's the key to finally understanding the engine behind your overthinking. Now, the shadow isn't evil. It's not a monster to be slain. It is simply everything you were taught to push away about yourself. It's the repository for all the parts of you that you had to disown because you learned, explicitly or implicitly, that they were unacceptable, shameful, or, well, dangerous. Think about it. Your righteous anger, your deep-seated neediness, your raw, unapologetic ambition, your profound vulnerability, your untamed creativity, your wildness. For the child who needed to be good, to be loved, all of these normal, healthy parts of the human experience were deemed bad and were exiled into the dark, unconscious part of your mind. But these parts of you don't vanish. They are powerful, energetic aspects of your life force. When repressed, they don't die. They go underground, and from there, they influence your behavior from below, pulling the strings of your life in ways you cannot comprehend. And here is a difficult, vital truth. Your overthinking is very often a desperate, highly sophisticated distraction. It's an intricate smokescreen, a cognitive fireworks display, really, generated by your conscious mind to keep you from feeling those raw, powerful, and, well, terrifying shadow emotions that are trying to surface. Your thoughts don't multiply because you're a great analyst. They multiply because you are a masterful avoider. Let's make this real. Think about the last time you were truly trapped in that obsessive, looping mental prison. Let's say you get some mild, constructive criticism from your boss. For the next 3 days, you're locked in a mental torture chamber. You're replaying their words, dissecting their tone, spiraling into a catastrophe where you're convinced you're about to be fired. On the surface, you think you're analyzing the feedback. But what if that criticism poked something much deeper? What if it agitated your repressed anger? That part of your shadow that feels a hot surge of rage when it feels misjudged, unseen, or underestimated. But you were taught your anger is unacceptable, bad, or unprofessional. So your ego, in a desperate panic to keep that good persona intact, it short-circuits that surge of anger, and it transforms its raw energy into a safer, more familiar loop of anxious, self-doubting thought. This overthinking, you see, is a shield, a clever transmutation of fire into fog to keep you from feeling your own power. Or consider your relationships. You finally find a partner who is kind, stable, and available. Yet you're consumed by thoughts like, what if they leave me? What if this is too good to be true? What did they mean by that text? You believe you're just an anxious partner, that this is your relationship pattern. But what if the real story is that you have a deep, repressed longing for true intimacy, a longing so profound, it feels terrifyingly vulnerable? To truly surrender to that level of closeness would mean feeling the full weight of your need for another person, a need that was likely shamed in your childhood. Your ego, terrified of that vulnerability, creates 1,000 thought loops of projected disaster to keep you from ever having to surrender to the closeness your shadow actually craves. This is the silent, exhausting war that fuels your mind. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Your chronic overthinking isn't your personality. It's your unexamined fate, playing out in real time. It's the ghost of the life you weren't allowed to live, the feelings you weren't allowed to feel. That ghost isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to be heard. And your overthinking is the sound it makes when you refuse to listen. So, what do? Where do you go from here? If the relentless noise in your head is just a signal, a coded message from your own depths, then the goal can't be to silence it anymore. That's like trying to cure a fever by breaking the thermometer. The goal must be to summon the courage to turn around and face what the noise is pointing to. In Jungian terms, this heroic journey is called individuation. It's the sacred, lifelong path of becoming whole, of gathering the scattered and exiled pieces of yourself and integrating them into a conscious, authentic self. This represents a radical shift in perspective. The solution isn't more thinking. It's not analyzing your analysis. It's not finding a cleverer way to outsmart your own mind. The solution is to drop down, out of the frantic, spinning hamster wheel of the head and into the body, into the feeling, into the raw, messy, inconvenient truth of your present moment experience. The way out is through. This isn't a 10-step plan or a quick fix. No. These are sacred invitations into your own depths. They're practices to be undertaken with patience and with self-compassion. So the first invitation is this: to have a dialogue with the symptom. Stop treating your overthinking like an enemy to be vanquished. Instead, start treating it like a messenger who's deeply misunderstood. Personify it. Give it a name, a shape, a voice. Then in a journal, or just quietly to yourself, in a safe space, begin to ask it questions with genuine curiosity. Ask things like, what are you trying to protect me from right now? What are you so afraid will happen if you finally stop spinning? What specific feeling are you holding at bay for me? What part of my past does this situation remind you of? And what do you need from me in this moment? Don't judge the answers that arise. Just listen. The answers may be irrational, childlike, or dramatic. Your goal isn't to argue or defeat it. No. Your goal is to understand a wounded, protective part of yourself. You're building a bridge, not a wall. The second invitation is to return to the body. Overthinking is a state of profound disconnection from your physical self. It's an out-of-body experience, where all your energy is trapped right there, in your head. The next time the spiral begins, stop everything. If you can, close your eyes. Instead of following the thoughts up and away, intentionally guide your attention downward. Scan your body from head to toe. Where does the feeling behind the thoughts live? Is it a suffocating tightness in your chest? A cold, hollow knot in your stomach? A buzzing energy in your hands? Or maybe a lump in your throat? Don't even try to name it, anxiety or fear. Just feel the raw physical sensation of it. Be curious about its texture, its temperature, its shape. Breathe into that specific location. Stay with it for just 30 seconds, then a minute. This is terrifying at first, because it's the very thing your mind has been working so hard to help you avoid. But by staying, you are sending a new message to your nervous system: I am capable of holding this energy. I will not abandon myself. You are leaving the burning fortress of your mind and returning to the deep, quiet wisdom of your body. The third invitation is to give a voice to the unacceptable. This is active shadow work. It's about making the darkness conscious, so it no longer has to run your life from behind the scenes. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Then, take out a piece of paper and just write, unedited and uncensored, from the perspective of the part of you that you normally suppress. Write as your rage. What does it want to scream? What injustices does it see? Let it be illogical and furious on the page. Write as your deepest fear. What are its most irrational, childlike terrors? Give them form. Write as your profound sadness. What unspoken grief have you been carrying for years? What needs to be mourned? Write as your envy. What does it secretly desire that you've told yourself you shouldn't want? This isn't about acting on these impulses in the real world. It's the exact opposite. It's about bringing them into the light of your own awareness so they can be understood, honored, and integrated, not repressed, where they can fester and gain power. This journey isn't easy. Let's be clear about that. It's often brutal to face the parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime pretending don't exist. It shatters the carefully constructed self-image you've presented to the world. It forces you to see that you're not just the nice, calm, rational person. You're also messy and contradictory and needy and angry and powerful and whole. This is the work, and it's the only work that leads to true peace. We've traveled a long way together from the noisy, circular prison of the overthinking mind, back through time to the silent, haunted rooms of childhood, and then down into the dark, fertile cellar of the shadow. The truth, I hope, is now piercingly clear. You're not a chronic worrier. You're not your anxiety. You don't have a broken brain. You are a person with a deep, unheard, and vital story living inside of you. Your overthinking is not a curse. It is a map painstakingly drawn in a coded language. It is the desperate, repetitive language of your unconscious, pointing you with unwavering precision toward the very places within you that need your compassion, your attention, and your healing. It is a sacred call from your soul to stop running, to stop analyzing, to stop fixing, and to finally, bravely, turn inward. The journey is not to silence your mind, but to finally learn its language. It is to learn to listen to its whispers before they become screams. It is to welcome home the exiled parts of yourself that have been waiting in the dark, for you to remember them. The great secret of this path is that the collapse you fear, the collapse of your control, the collapse of your defenses, is actually the return you've been waiting for your entire life. It is the collapse of the false self, and the beginning of a life lived from a place of authentic, unshakable wholeness. If this message resonated with the deep thinker in you, if you feel that quiet but persistent call to go on this journey of self-reclamation, I invite you to declare it. Go to the comments section right now and write this affirmation: I am meeting my whole self. By writing it, you make a conscious commitment, not just to this community of fellow travelers, but to the deepest, most authentic part of you that is ready to come home. Thank you for walking this path with me today. If you wish to continue this exploration into the profound truths of who we are, subscribe and stay close. Because here, in this space, you will never have to apologize for the depth or the complexity of your mind.